Mr. Yocum. Just kidding. Ms. Chavez-DeRemer.
You never know who's going to show up right behind you, and you're like, oh, you think you're in line. Thank you, Chairman. Thank you all for being here today. As a new member of Congress and representing Oregon's 5th District, there's so much to learn in this industry. Ms. Solren, thank you for being here on behalf of America's steelworkers. We do such great work in the steel manufacturing sector, one of the most important sectors to our economy and national security. Of course, having loopholes in Buy America provisions do not benefit the taxpayer nor the businesses and industries these provisions seek to benefit. But it also undermines the various rules and regulations industry must adhere to, from environmental to worker protections. And critical to this conversation, we must recognize that they aren't extraterritorial. China's steel companies do not adhere to U.S. regulations. So when DOT policies allow the purchase of foreign steel, we undermine these very regulations and subject our own companies and workers to unfair playing field at the taxpayer's expense, no less. It's been said a lot today, but I think we can all benefit if we get Buy America right. Without closing Buy America loopholes or streamlining regulations, only our competitors like China seek to benefit. Ms. Solren, you mentioned in your testimony that a January 2023 poll conducted by Morning Consult identified that 83% of Republican, Democrat, and independent voters agree that taxpayer dollars should go toward infrastructure projects that utilize American-made products like iron, steel, and other construction materials versus products that are imported from foreign countries. So, Ms. Solren, how do we achieve this consensus in Washington? Is it the Buy America loopholes that are in the way, or is it something else?
Thank you for your question, and you hit on some very, very important points. I will note that voters are sometimes way ahead of policymakers, mostly because they see firsthand how deindustrialization or how a bridge made of Chinese steel can impact them as workers, but also their communities. And so the hollowing out of our industrial base is not a Republican or Democratic issue. It's everyone's issue, and we must address that. We also need strong steel sector for our national defense and to independently build our infrastructure without being reliant on potential hostile or unreliable trading partners. And so Buy America is a bipartisan policy, and we need to keep it that way, and we need to make sure that the implementation in the administration is robust and strong and ensures that no new loopholes are created.
Thank you. You may be aware of the I-5 interstate bridge, which crosses the Columbia River and is a major transportation connection between Oregon and Washington State. It has been undergoing major repairs, but also delays for replacement in the infrastructure. We are all haunted by the San Francisco-Oakland Bay Bridge replacement project a decade ago, where California turned Chinese steel to help to repair that bridge. Again, this in no way benefits American steel manufacturers. So how do we ensure this doesn't happen again? And to add to that, how do we prevent federal and state governments turning to foreign products and steel to help repair this I-5 bridge?
Yes, so the San Francisco to Oakland Bay Bridge is honestly without a doubt, the epitome of bad Buy America loopholes. That project was a product of a segmentation loophole, which allowed California to use state dollars to go ahead with the project, benefiting not only Chinese manufacturers, but Chinese workers as well, and leaving American workers out of the equation. And that project ended up being way over budget and way past due. And so we learned a lot of lessons. And in the 2015 FAST Act, that loophole was closed. And so to remain vigilant, I think, for your project, and thank you for supporting that, we need to make sure that no new loopholes are created. And I'll also highlight that the state of Oregon has implemented state Buy America policy, which will allow stronger Buy America policy used with state and local funds. And so, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Needham, it's my understanding that demand for domestically produced steel will likely increase in response to the recent implementation of the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, the Inflation Reduction Act, and the CHIPS Act. In fact, I've seen some estimates that steel demand is projected to increase by 5 to 8 million tons annually as a result of these pieces of legislation. So given the likely increases in demand, does the domestic steel industry have enough capacity to supply federally funded highway and transit projects? as well as other infrastructure projects like the I-5 bridge that may be subject to the Buy America requirements? And your time is limited, I'm over, so if you could answer that very quickly, I'd appreciate it.
Yes, thank you for that question. As I mentioned, the U.S. steel industry is about 76% capacity utilization, so we have the capacity to supply those. And also, the other thing that I mentioned earlier, Buy America, what it allows is for the confidence to invest in the future. You know, we just started a new plate mill in Brandenburg, Kentucky that is capable of supplying those types of projects.
Thank you, Mr. Unum. Thank you.
Gentleman's time.